what really happens behind the scenes of a successful seven-figure business. Join me as I dive deep into a transparent conversation about entrepreneurship with Libby Crow. In this episode, you'll learn the 3 seasons of entrepreneurship, why entrepreneurship is really just an opportunity to break patterns, and the one thing that Libby missed the mark on when she was building her business. Today's episode is sponsored by my advanced digital training, Unleashed and Unapologetic, How to Become a Thought Leader and Build a Cult Following. If you're ready to gain visibility, build a loyal following, and create impact while increasing your income, please enroll for the You and You training at rubyfremon.com/unleashed. If you are listening, whether you're a new thought leader or you are a loyal thought leader, please make sure you drop a rating and review on iTunes. And now, finally, it's time to go behind the scenes with the one and only Libby Crow. Hey thought leaders, I am back and I'm super fucking stoked to be chatting with this beautiful, amazing, incredible friend of mine who goes by the name of Libby Crow. Libby, welcome to today's Thought Leader. I'm super excited to have you on.
Thanks, Rubes. Happy to be here with you.
And we were just saying before we hit record that it's been far too long since we've caught up officially. So we're going to kind of half catch up on this episode and also like just dive into what you've been up to because, you know, from the outside, people look at you and they're like, wow, like here's a female entrepreneur who's fucking made it. Like she's successful. She's earning 7 figures. She has a really amazing relationship. But I know that there's been a lot that has gone on behind the scenes to create that. And I think that's the piece that people don't really see. And when people don't really see that, I think that it can be quite damaging because it impacts your own journey when you're trying to compare your day 1 to someone's like day like 4,082.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. That's why my whole movement and my podcast is called Behind the Dream, because it's like, let's be honest and let's share that it's really not cute, but there are moments of cuteness for sure. But yeah, I'm all about being authentic with it. And a lot of the times what that looks like is me sharing on my social media platforms or however I share content about it. And I think even though I might not be sharing something super happy, people are grateful and happy that I'm real, right? So yeah, it's even though I do share both sides, like what it takes and then the happy moments, it is easy. We can go into that comparison of just looking at people's success and wonder, gosh, will I ever get there? Or is that really for me? Or let me just try to follow her formula where we're all having our own individual paths and we just got to stay in our own lanes.
Yeah, I fully agree. And we do all have our own individual paths. And yes, there are strategies that work for everyone. And there are trails that have yet to be blazed. You know, like we get to decide how this story goes for ourselves. And I'm curious to know, because I know like even in the last 2 years, like so much has changed in your business, like a lot. Like you have really skyrocketed, but I know that came with a lot of other stuff. So I'd love to like just peek behind the scenes with you right now.
Baby. Well, I learned about the world of entrepreneurship 7 years ago. I was a 1st and 2nd grade teacher and I had no clue about all this stuff. I didn't even know how to say the word entrepreneur. I was like, what is that? But I was so excited about this new world that I had found actually through a network marketing company. That was my first stepping stone into the world. And since then I stepped away from working with them after a couple of years because I found out you could be an expert and you can share and, with coaching and mentorship and consulting. And that was the path I took from there. And then since then, I've had wellness-based businesses, life coaching businesses. And then later after those were successful, lots of people asked me to be their business mentor. And at first I was kind of resistant, mostly because I really love talking about matters of the soul and business is often matters of practicality and cerebral things. And I had a little bit of aversion at first. And then people kept knocking on the door. Please do it. Please do it. Please coach me. Please help me. And I love your business. Teach me how to not sound salesy or gross. I'm like, all right, fine. So I started working with some people on their businesses and they saw great success. And I was like, okay, my methods, my strategies are amazing. They're bitching. Let's go ahead and put this into something. So then, yeah, I focused fully on being able to mentor other entrepreneurs, primarily female entrepreneurs in their service-based businesses. And then in the last 2 years, I was able to build up my one-on-one consulting business. And then I moved from that to focusing primarily on my group coaching program, which was called the BA, or the Business Accelerator, for service-based businesses, primarily coaches. And that was what happened in the last year and a half was kind of the big exponential growth. And I think that's what entrepreneurship is. It's compound action creates exponential growth. And so for me, what that looked like is letting go of my role of doing it all and my role of feeling significant, and having other people, AKA badass team members, be able to come in and do my jobs for me, so that my job was take care of myself, create cool content. And so I moved out of every role: CEO, COO, assistant, like marketer, salesperson, client delivery. I moved out of every role, every hat that we can have until we were able to scale. And I just moved into pure, just like, I am Libby. And so you're right, that brought great monetary value. I helped so many people change their lives through their companies. And all of a sudden I had all this space and time, Ruby. And I'd never had that my whole life. I was always do, like prom queen, athletes for literacy, key club, student council, every instrument you could play, like every athletic you could play, like everything. And then as a teacher, those patterns just kept going, like best teacher, like the most caring teacher, like all the things. And then as an entrepreneur, same thing, like do, succeed. And it's like, I was just going towards this moving target and never really taking a break. And so all of a sudden I had the clients, the brand, an amazing husband, loving friends, and a team to support me, and I have time. And that's when the freak out happened. It was like, oh, I have time and space. What? So it was a shocker. Yeah. It was
I was about to say, man, like, what do you do with all that time and space? Right. And I think for entrepreneurs, we are in the position, at least for the first year, at least, and this is the majority of entrepreneurs, for at least the first year of your business, you are wearing multiple hats. And so we come into this conditioned to go, do, wear these different hats, or we condition ourselves to do this. And then we hustle our asses off, get our businesses to a place, hopefully, where we need it to be. And then you reach that space, and now you have the time and the freedom. What do you do?
Well, and that's where I was. And so from the outside, wouldn't it look like I would just be luxuriating in all of that? And yet internally, I was pretty confused. So there were a couple moving pieces. I think emotionally, I was wondering, like, wait, who am I? Because all I've been doing is attaching my identity to what I've been doing. My purpose became my plan. And I was like, projected, like, from everyone around me that this is who I am. And so I had to come into the emotionality of tapping into that. And then spiritually, I felt disconnected because I was such in the doing that I had lost my practices that I loved, like yoga and meditation and holding crystals around with me everywhere. Like, not that has to be spirituality, but like these tactical things that I love doing. And then practically, my body was, I would say, the biggest manifestation of all of these years, honestly, probably since second grade, of the doing, that finally I got to look at how it manifested. And so it manifested in, like, I cracked my teeth from stress. I remember going to the dentist, and she was like, what have you been up to the last year? And I'm like, growing the company. She was worried about me because I had cracked my teeth. I had to get crowns on my teeth because I guess, when you're a master at stress, you don't realize you're in it, right?
Right.
So I was such a master that you didn't even realize. You're like, I'm cool, but because you actually feel that way.
Right.
You're so used to it.
Yep.
So that was a thing that happened. I was so tired. I got diagnosed with severe adrenal fatigue, which a lot of female entrepreneurs are experiencing from the pushing and the pressure. And then also, like, all my hormones were all whack. So it was such an interesting time for me because I was really happy and fulfilled and I felt successful, but my body and my spirit and my soul were really confused. And so it opened up this opportunity for integration and an opportunity for me to dive deeper into what I really want, what's really important for me, and how I want to express and create that can feel nourishing and energy rich versus feeling depleted. So
Right.
it spiraled into, and this was about 7-8 months ago now, it spiraled into an opportunity for greater connection with self and true, like tapping into my true nature. So that was unexpected. You think you're just going to be like good to go or something, but then all of a sudden that spaciousness opens up just the most beautiful portal for personal development that you thought you were on already.
Right. And it's such, whether it's the 7-figure goal, the 6-figure goal, whatever the goal is, so many of us will reach that goal, and we feel that feeling of like success and fulfillment, and yet our body is telling us a different story. And it's like what you said earlier, is we attach this feeling of success to these exterior things, these goals, these accolades, these achievements. And so we're pushing and pushing and pushing and going after these things. And once we get it, we're like, oh yeah, this feels good. And it doesn't feel good. Like I've just had to run my body through the ground in order to get this. So how do I make everything feel good?
Yeah. I love that. I also think that when I'm looking back, it appears that entrepreneurship actually gave me the opportunity to break the pattern. Because if I would have stayed in my 9 to 5, I probably would have been operating from those same patterns of stress and anxiety and pressure until I was like 70, or my body just completely failed. So in a way, entrepreneurship was the amplification of the patterns for me.
Right.
And it allowed me to break free of them because it's just in your face all the time, because it's like just such a part of your beingness as a creator. So yeah, in a way, I'm so grateful that it allowed me to kind of speed up the process of realizing what was happening, because I had that spaciousness finally because of what I created. So it felt like a win-win in a way, even though, yeah, I tell you what, when you're just exhausted and you're like, I just want to be luxuriating in this external success I'm creating, and I just feel like tired. I don't want to be around anyone. I just don't care. Like, I wish I could take all this money and go on a trip, but I'm too tired. Like, so it is an interesting thing that happens when we get to this moment of choosing what we get to do or what we want to do, versus maybe feeling in survival or being really so committed to the goal line that there's no other options. So then you have options, and it's like, whoa, it's just a different paradigm.
Right. Yeah. It's like, who are you actually being in the pursuit of what you're achieving? And how are you taking care of yourself while you're in the pursuit of what it is that you're looking to achieve? Like,
well, yeah. And you know what, Roops? I would say I took great care of myself. Like, I was like, I'll work out and I'll go to the hot sauna and I'll get massages and I'll get facials. And like, it felt like my self-care was pretty fleeky. Like, I get 10 hours of sleep, 9 hours of sleep a night, but it was almost like this inner operating system that I couldn't grasp on. It was like, because it was so innate in the DNA or the systems or the neuroplasticity or whatever was happening, not a scientist, but things were happening on the inside, that it was almost like it didn't even matter if my self-care was impeccable, because it was a complete like rewiring that almost needed to happen.
Yeah, I always look at this as in terms of video games, right? We're just going through these different levels of this video game, and every level requires us to be stronger and better, like, and at the end of every level there's this big giant challenge, like the original Super Mario Brothers, like at the end of every level there's this challenge that you have to do, or this person you have to fight. And then you build up and you build up until you get to that last level where you fight Bowser. and you're actually like capable and you have the tools. And I mean, I feel like that's what life is, and that's what entrepreneurship is. It's like we're just reaching all these different levels, and those levels are really essentially our previous glass ceilings. Like, here I am breaking through this first glass ceiling. Now I'm going to break through the second glass ceiling. And with every glass ceiling comes this major upgrade to our system and this major up leveling. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to continue to rise and break through these different glass ceilings. We can't do that by carrying on as our former selves. It just doesn't work.
I love your example, and all I can think about is like, but yeah, it feels like that. And that's why it's, when people are like, it's about the journey, I would always roll my eyes at that. I'm like, oh my God, if I hear another person say like, it's about embracing the journey and like enjoying the ride, I'm just like, oh my good Lord, like, I don't know. But it's because most likely I wasn't in my full creative aligned expression in the doing, because and I think for certain seasons we're not, and that's okay.
Yes.
And yet now I feel like I get to choose the expression where maybe I am like always had the superpower mushroom guy, where I'm like, yeah, I get to choose like how I'm going to dominate this level now. And so I'm grateful for the lessons along the way, for sure, with the other levels. And holy cow, I think everyone just needs to take a deep breath sometimes, because we're so committed to the end goal and the milestone that it's true. There's truth in really being able to stay true to who you are along the way.
Yeah. And that in itself is the challenge, right?
Honestly, though, like, it's funny, huh? Like all the talk about masculine and feminine these days, and the seasons, and like strategy versus soul and all this stuff. And even when we have mentorship and knowledge and embodiment, it's still not always pretty. It's like, it's just knowing that the shadows will arise, the crap will come up, it will be messy, there will be tear shed, hopefully not bloodshed, but
hopefully not bloodshed.
I just started watching Game of Thrones, so I'm like thinking all medieval.
Best show ever, FYI, best show ever.
I don't know where I've been the last 8 years or so, but it just started. So yeah, it's never gonna, no matter how many tools you have or support, it's still not ever just gonna be smooth sailing all the time.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. It's important for people to know. Before we went live, we were like, yeah, this isn't for everyone. But if you're planted with the seed and you have the vision, man, go for it, because life can be incredible when you do.
Yeah, if you have the vision and you have the determination, right? Because
show up and then work when you show up, right?
Right, exactly. Because you're right, it's not always pretty, and I don't think that it's ever going to be it's ever meant to be, because then what's the fucking point?
Yeah.
There's no challenge to it, there's no growth. And it really just takes a sheer amount of determination to do this work, but also to have the courage to dive deeper within ourselves, right? Like entrepreneurship isn't just business. It is the deepest, most profound personal development course you'll ever invest in, ever, hands down, is your entrepreneurial journey. Like, invest in that, and that'll be the most profound personal development journey of your life. And it really teaches you like how to be a leader of your own life, so that you can then lead your business, lead your mission, lead your audience, lead whatever it is that you're here to lead. But that starts with you. And when we're building a business, it's not that we have to first become an expert at leading us. It's like all of this stuff happens all at the same time, and it's super fucking messy. And like with every business failure that I've encountered, I've learned more about myself, and then I learn how to proceed. And then with every, it's all a work in progress. And I don't know, like, I don't believe that it gets better. I believe we get better.
I dig that. I almost look at it as there's these different verticals in our lives. Like we have business, we have relationship, we have self, we have friendship, all the things. And each of them has its own texture and color of growth. And I think the entrepreneurial vertical is such a potent and kind of intense growth texture. And so each one offers such a different richness and different feel. And I think, yeah, you definitely have to have a little bit of wildness in your DNA to be like, yep, that's a vertical I choose. Okay, sign me up. Like, you have to be a little wild, which I think is beautiful, because most creators or people who want to change the world are. So yeah, I kind of look at it like my relationship has been probably the most profound teacher in these ways, in these textures, business in these textures. And so, yeah, it almost takes things to the full pie level when you decide to do your own thing.
Yeah. And I bet now, where you're sitting right now with the success that you've created, and also now diving deeper into yourself and finding your fullest expression as being Libby, there's probably a shit ton of stuff that you've learned. I'm really curious to know, like, what's come up for you, stuff that you've learned, and maybe you were like, wow, why wasn't I doing this like this all these other years?
Yeah. Yeah. The first thing that I've learned about myself that I think I haven't maybe admitted to or understood how important it was my sensitivity.
Mm.
So as I had the spaciousness, I actually could feel how I was feeling, and my senses started to become more attuned, I guess. And
Mhm.
so part of that was learning about being a highly sensitive person and respecting and honoring that part of me. Part
Mhm.
of that was exploring my gene keys and my human design with
Mhm.
mentors who could help me with that. Doing all the things like getting all the cool readings, Akashic, blah, blah, all the things. And then also spending time by myself has allowed me to realize my own rhythm and my own pace. So it's kind of like one thing that kind of sums it up that I realized is, those Olympic speed walkers?
Mhm. Yes.
I that's been my pace maybe since forever. And
Right.
really I'm a Venice Beach long, slow stroll kind of
Mhm.
person, sipping
Yeah.
like a cold bevy green juice thing, just like
Right.
slow. And so I've been able to come back into my own pace and rhythm and realized that I'm exhausted because I've been beating to other people's metronomes. So
Mm.
through this, it's kind of like I feel so empowered in
Mhm.
owning what I need, what I want, and the way of the vehicle I want to create and how that looks. And maybe more practically, okay, I have this goal in this project instead of adding on 5 more with deadlines like I could in the past or wanted to
Right.
do in the past or
Yeah.
that's what happened. Now it's like one project, I'm giving myself twice as much time so
Mhm.
that, if I have my period, I can lay down for 4 days and I can be
Right.
fine or whatever, right? Or if I have a fun trip, like,
Mhm.
and so I'm operating at such a different pace. And that feels like one of the most deepest lessons for me is who am I and how do I operate? And not judging myself for that, because a lot of people that we're both friends with, that we both love,
Mhm.
their pace is different than mine.
Mhm.
And so it can be easy to, even Scott, my husband, Scott, if you guys don't know Scott, he's amazing.
Mhm.
Even his pace is just so much faster than mine. And it can be easy for me to beat to other people's
Right.
metronome. So I am the metronome is kind of my mantra right now. And like,
Right.
I am clear and I am like a river and I'm just fluid and it doesn't have to be wild to look like success anymore for me. In terms of wildness, I just mean intense and fast paced.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I feel like we're shown a lot, and that's what's portrayed a lot. The Gary V hustle is what I like to call it.
Mhm.
Like, you got to hustle, you got to work hard, you got to go. And I do believe that I personally, in my opinion, IMO, believe that there are periods in an entrepreneur's life when that is all mandatory. When you're
Yeah,
building
agree.
your business, when you're getting it off the ground, like, you have to wear the different hats. You have to Google how to create YouTube videos. Like, you have to do all the things, right? And then you get to start falling into, like, what is your actual natural flow, or, like you said, like, finding your metronome. Like, what is that beat that you want to fall into? And it's so interesting that you put it in that way, because, like, I also, like, I have, I'm what now, 5 years into this, and I feel like, yeah, like, I just want to find my own flow, because I know that there's a different way of doing things, and I have built a solid enough foundation to start playing in that. Um, but it's just so interesting, because you'd think that, oh, is there a way to do this right from the get-go? And no, I don't think
Yeah.
there is.
No, I've been talking to friends about this too. You might, Lori Harder, she and I were
Yes.
talking
Yeah.
on her podcast about this same thing. And she asked, is this possible to do from the start? And I said, well, that's not the season you're in. You
Right.
can't,
Exactly.
that's like asking for summer when it's winter. It's like,
Hmm.
again, another Game of Thrones reference. Look at me. The
Right.
winter is coming. I just can't
Winter
stop at
is
this point.
coming. Yeah.
But yeah, maybe it was only a reference for me inside my head, but I said it anyway. But yeah, we were just talking about that, how yeah, no, like there's seasons for doing, there's seasons for being. I call it seasons of lay, play, and slay.
I love that.
Like a
Seasons of
peace sign chart,
lay,
and
play,
it's
and
like,
slay.
yeah, you have to slay a lot at the beginning, or you get to slay a lot at the beginning
Yeah.
to create momentum for yourself, to create legacy, to create results, to, do it. And then of course you need the lay and play in there as well, but it might not be the priority. So yeah,
Right.
it's seasons. And I'm really grateful to be honest with you, to be in a season of more play and lay right now, because to be quite frank, that feels like my most authentic self. Like, even though I can get a lot done, I don't experience myself, even though other people do, as like in a deep way, as someone who's like, I just want to slay. Like, I have all this ambition, like, blah, yeah, I can do those things and yay. But I actually feel like I enjoy just having a good time. And for me, having a good time isn't always slaying. Some people, they love the slay. They're like, I just want to slay all day. I love it. I love it. I'm like, I love a good spa day and friend brunch. That fills me up. So yeah, just coming back into the truth of me versus who I think I need to be because I'm a leader.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so important for our listeners to really grab hold of what we're sharing and what Libby's sharing too, is that entrepreneurship, first of all, doesn't have to look one way or another. This is really like a journey of finding ourselves as we are learning how to lead our missions and figuring out how to do the thing that we're here to fucking do. Right.
Yeah, it's growing in public, which can feel really vulnerable for some people. I'm fine. I'm like, this is me today. Hello. But a lot of people feel anxious about like kind of showing up and sharing their journey in public. But that's part of it. That's like the juice. That's so helpful for people. If I only had someone like me telling me like, this is what you can expect, holy cow, that would have helped versus all the polished stuff. I'm so grateful for the new conversations happening in the space around just being transparent. It's like just medicine for me.
Yeah, it really is. Because I mean, the one thing, yes, we are all so much more connected digitally, like at our fingertips, but we as a society are so much more disconnected because of the digital presence, because everyone's presence online is so manipulated and so concocted that it creates that disconnect. And so for real, like entrepreneurial leaders to step up and be transparent about what's going on, to have conversations like this, to be willing to grow in public. This is what creates that connection, both with your audience and to your peers. And this is also like what the world is craving at its core right now. And it's what the world needs more of, is just like conversations like this, the transparency, the vulnerability, the realness, like just fucking be real.
A woman. Yeah. I think that with anybody that has a personal brand, there are certain things they want to portray about themselves. And
For sure.
I think if someone feels weird, it's just ask yourself, am I responsibly processing this lesson or this challenge that I went through? And if so, and if I can teach someone, because the reason why you're going through it is to teach someone. It's like first you, then them. And then if you can express that, that's a gift for someone. It doesn't make you weaker or seem like a mess if you responsibly process and then share.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what this is about. It's like processing, sharing, processing, sharing. Processing.
Yeah. And like this episode is going to help so many entrepreneurs, right? Who are feeling like maybe they're in the season of slay and they're like, when is my season of play coming? or maybe they've like reached their 6-figure or their 7-figure goal and they're like, okay, now what do I do with myself? Like, I have the time and freedom I wanted. And so I really feel like this episode's going to provide some deep insights because of your willingness to be transparent. And so
thank you
so much for like sharing that. What are some like final thoughts you want to leave with our audience today?
Yeah. So I view entrepreneurship and this feeling of entrepreneurship that you might have inside of you if you're not yet going in on it as the artist that's like picking up a paintbrush and some paint, because we all have artisan souls. We all have creative souls. Often since we were little, we just got kind of told that we have to fit in this box or that box, or our art isn't good enough, or it doesn't make sense, or it's not pretty enough, or whatever. And this is an opportunity with technology, being able to help people and serve people, to create art and to activate your creativity. And so don't fit in a box and do it your way. And of course, strategy is important. Does like one of my whole businesses is about strategy and helping people with that. And I just think that one thing that I missed the mark on that I'd love everyone to hear is that their canvas and their paints and their colors and their end piece will not look like anyone else's. If you've ever been to a class where everyone starts with the same piece of paper and you just tell them to go for it, whose looks the same? And if you've ever been to a class and someone's guiding you through to paint the same exact picture, whose look the same? Nobody's. So no matter what, your end result and even the journey of creating will look different and unique. And that is what people want and that will help other people. And that's actually the gold in this whole thing. So just to activate that artisan soul and that creativity as part of business, I think just hands down one of the best things you can focus on.
Yeah, what a beautiful and powerful image. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, that it's true. None of our paintings look the same.
Even if we try, like
even if we try,
like wine and canvas classes that you would go to. Like, I don't know, I went to a lot of those in my 20s and I would be like, well, mine doesn't look like, and I'd always like do my own thing too, which is really funny, very contrarian of me. I'd like write words on mine. It was supposed to be like a bird or something.
Right.
So yeah, it's just, that's a great example of like, oh yeah, why am I trying to like use this filter or like say things in this way? Like I'm just gonna be me. So yeah, I think that's really important to remember.
I love that. Thank you so much, Libby, for just bringing your presence and your magic and your transparency to today's thought leader. I really appreciate you.
This has been so fun. Thank you for being you. Like, you make this feel really energy rich, and that is just like, that means a lot to me. And thank you for what you do and your own growth and your dedication to help people, even on the inside of this whole journey. You're just a gem from the sky. I think this conversation will really touch a lot of hearts.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much. And to our listeners, like, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Today's Thought Leader, where we're challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. If you have anything to share with Libby or you want to connect with her, Libby, why don't you tell our audience how they can stalk you online? And then I'll have those in the show notes.
Yeah, super easy. Libby Crow, like the bird. I'm on Instagram. My site's libbycrow.com. And then I have a Facebook community, Behind the Dream. And of course, you can check out the podcast Behind the Dream too. So those are some avenues de la creativity de Libbyland that are quite fabulous that you guys can check out.
Yes, go to her podcast, Behind the Dream, and hit subscribe, okay? Because if you love her here, you're going to love her on her podcast. Please be sure to drop a rating and review on iTunes. And then if you have any questions or want to connect with either of us about today's episode, reach out on social media. My handle is @IamRuby, and we've got @Libby Crow. Thank you so much, Libby. Thank you to all of our listeners, and I will see you all here on Thursday for another new episode of Today's Thought Leader.